By definition, getting back on track is just doing what you were doing before you fell off track, right? There's no secret to that. There's not like, I can't tell you some secret method to get back on track. It's just do whatever you got to do to get back into what you were doing before. Of course, there's a couple of nuances there. That's assuming that you had a good plan in the first place, like your plan was solid. Because I've also run into a lot of instances where people are telling me, I can't get back on track. I was on track for 3 days and I fell off. If it's 3 days, there's a high chance it's not about getting back on track. 3 days probably means you don't really have a good plan, in the sense of you probably made a way too aggressive plan that you weren't supposed to be able to keep up with in the first place. And so it's super natural that you fall off track, and it's super natural that it's really, really difficult to get back on track. But then in another scenario where, everything's been going well for the past 3 to 6 months, and these couple of days you fell a little bit off track. Well, that's just like having a bad day, right? Whether you go to school or go to work, like not every day is going to be exciting. Not every day is going to be a good day. There's bound to be some bad days. There are bound to be some days you're in bed, you don't want to get up, you don't want to go to school, you don't want to go to work, but you gotta go anyway. There's bound to be those days. It's the same with your diet, right? Okay, you decided, fuck your diet for one day. What do? How do I get back on track? You don't do anything. You just, the next day, get back into your regular routine. And one of the main things I want to point out is when you're getting back on track, no matter the circumstance, no matter how bad you think you fucked up, don't make up for it, right? Don't start going into the numbers game. Don't start going into, oh my God, I missed a workout yesterday, so I got to do double today. It's like, don't do that. Or, I overate by 2,000 calories yesterday, so I'm going to eat 2,000 less today. Don't do that. All that does is make your life even more miserable and then spins you into this cycle. Like, I messed up, I got to make up for it. By making up for it, it makes your routine even harder to stick to, which creates a higher chance of you messing up again. And when you mess up again, then you have more to make up for, and you just go into that really unhealthy cycle of messing up, making up, messing up, making up, until finally the only way out of it is like, all right, I gotta quit. I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm 10,000 calories down. I can't eat 0 for a day. That's just not gonna work. And yeah, okay, you might succeed eating 0 calories 1 day, 2 days. How long is that gonna last? That's not. The only way out of that is to quit and restart. But we all know that quit and restart isn't like a video game, right? You don't just hit the reset button and you're back at level 1. In real life, when you reset, there's that waiting period. Like when you quit a diet, there's that waiting period of feeling like, oh crap, I screwed up. A couple of weeks, couple of months go by. Then you got to wait for the motivation to come back, right? Okay, maybe I should start my journey again. Then there's the whole planning process. Like that whole thing, we're talking months when you're restarting a diet. It's not instantaneous. And then some might argue, but you could. Yeah, you could. But the problem is most of us don't work like that. The cycle is that relentless when you really identify it. But anyway, back to getting back on track. So if you just messed up for like a day or a weekend, there's really nothing to worry about. Like if you had a really good, friends came over, family came over, you had a crazy ass weekend, and Monday you're like, fuck man, how do I get back on track? It's like, don't overcomplicate it. Just pretend the weekend didn't happen and do what you usually do on Mondays. Go back to your regular routine. That's it. Cherish the memories you had, get back on track. Now where getting back on track becomes a little bit different is when you take a lot of days off. Meaning maybe you went on a week holiday, 2 weeks holiday, or maybe some life stuff happened and you had to take a month or two off to, focus on that. When it's a longer time and you're trying to get back on track, actually, let's break this down into the holiday and the long-term one, because I think it's 2 different approaches. For the 1 week holiday, you went away for a week, you're finally back, it's Monday. What do you do to get back on track? Well, here's where you have choices. You can either just treat it like it was a weekend off and just get back on track as if the holiday never happened. And if you're able to do that, kudos to you. That's, do that. No need to overcomplicate it. But if you've been on a holiday and that holiday was so good, you're back on Monday and it's, you're still in holiday mode, you're still in holiday mood, but you got to get back on track. Well, that's when you just take it slowly, get back on track. Why not take the first 2 weeks and just do 50% of your usual routine? For your diet, just do 50%. For your workouts, just do 50%. Ease your way back into it, because there's nothing wrong with that. Remember, when you're doing anything above 0%, that's progress. You don't need to be 100% to be making progress. This whole progress progress thing that we're trying to do, this is all like for life stuff. Like we're trying to create life habits. We're trying to create the habit that we can go out and have a really good 1 week holiday, come back and come into regular life and not let the holiday habits bleed into our regular life, because that's usually where the fat gain occurs, because you're not in control of your diet anymore and you're just going with the flow and letting whatever happens. And so for the week holiday, first 2 weeks, just do 50% of your usual routine. Week 3, you could either go back to 100%, or you want to make this a slower easing it in, you could do 75%. And by week 4, by 1 month, you're fully back 100%. Like that works too. Is your progress going to be a little bit slower? Yeah, but it's still progress and you're not going off track. You're not missing the mark. You're still heading in the right direction. You're just taking your time to get there rather than making yourself really, really uncomfortable, getting back on track 100% on day 1 after and being just completely the polar opposite of your past week. Like there's really no need for that. It's just unnecessarily suffering, right? It's making yourself feel like shit for no reason. Like nobody gains anything. You could getting back on track 50% for first 2 weeks and then 100% or 100% right away. No one's winning any medals. You're not significantly losing more fat or gaining more muscle. There's just no wins. No wins there, except you're put in a really bad mood if it's really uncomfortable for you. So that's the 1 week holiday. Now, if we go into the example of, let's say you took a month or 2 off for whatever reason, personal reason, maybe you're going through a hard breakup and, diet's the last thing on your mind right now, that's fine. Or you're moving to a new country, new lifestyle, you got to get yourself settled in, you just can't really track your fitness and health right now, totally fine. Life happens, right? If you've taken 1 or 2 months off, I think the first thing to do is not to get back on track. The first thing to do when you're ready to get back into having diet goals and fitness goals, you need to reevaluate yourself, because you're likely very different than you were 1-2 months ago versus now. Perhaps you haven't changed that much. Perhaps your goals are still identical and you just go back to your old routine. That's fine. But I would highly suggest you at least give that some thought, because if you have change, if you have new preferences, if there's a different way you'd like to do things now's the time to make the change, because a lot of time has passed. We change. Humans are always evolving. And even if it's just 1 and 2 months, maybe 2 months ago, you were really into going to the gym. You were really into doing Pilates because your boyfriend or girlfriend loved to do Pilates and you did it together. But then, shit happens. You guys broke up and you took 2 months to heal from that. And now you're ready to get back into working out. But then you realize that, I actually didn't really like Pilates. I did Pilates for him or her. I actually like rock climbing more. Great. Well, now why don't you make a new plan, a new climbing plan for your workouts, and make a new routine for yourself, right? Because if you just jump back into your old routine, which is the Pilates example, you wouldn't be doing yourself any favors. You'd struggle through that because it's obviously not what you want. You're just taking what you think is the shortcut, which is, using a plan that already exists, but actually it's not a shortcut. It's just something that's going to end up making you feeling worse. And then you eventually will reach a point where, okay, you got to make some changes because you realize you don't like doing what you're doing. So to save you all that time to figure it out yourself and having to go through that kind of hardships, after a longer break, I would suggest that you just self-reflect a little bit, see if you need any replanning. If you do, make the adjustments. If you don't, go back to your old plan. That's totally fine too. But getting back on track is literally like just that.